Hey, dreamers, welcome back to your Dream Coach podcast. I'm Shayla Wey. I'm a small business coach, growth strategist, and believer that your dream life starts the moment you lead like you mean it. Well, this podcast is all about leadership, fulfillment, and growth. Because what I've found is that when you understand how to lead yourself, you create a life and a business that not only succeed, but feel really good in the process. And so today, I really want to have an honest conversation about something I've seen time and time again, especially with leaders, business owners, and high performers. It's that moment when on paper, everything looks incredible. The business is doing well, the numbers are up, the team is growing, but internally, something still feels off. You can't quite name it, but there's a sense of emptiness. And over the years, I've realized that this usually comes down to something Tony Robbins teaches, and that is the 6 human needs that drive fulfillment. I was fortunate enough to invest in one of his events, Unleash the Power Within, back in 2019. And what I really appreciate so much about Tony is his obsession with psychology and not just how to tap into ourselves, but really why we are the way we are, why people are the way they are. And I think in leadership, the more that we can dive into those layers, the better we can show up as a leader and really make an impact in our business and businesses that we're a part of. And so if you haven't heard these 6 needs before, I want to share them with you. And then I really want to share with you why and how I felt as a coach bringing these into leadership can be really powerful, especially starting from ourselves and then pouring into the team with this awareness of, well, why do we not maybe feel as fulfilled as we should or how we think we should based on these 6? So the first one that we all need to feel a level of fulfillment is certainty. Now, the second one on the opposite side is uncertainty or variety. The third one is love and connection. The fourth is significance. Now, the other two, number 5 and 6, is where I'll often see clients a little uncertain as to why they're feeling unfulfilled, but not really able to name it. And number 5 is growth, and number 6 is contribution. So in today's episode, I want to explore how each of these needs shows up in leadership and business, and why when we feel unfulfilled, it's often because 2 of them are missing. I often see this being growth and contribution, especially in leadership, because fulfillment doesn't come always from having it all. It often comes from becoming more and giving more. And before we dive in, just a quick reminder, you can join the LFG Business Academy on School for free. Inside, you'll find tools, templates, and my mini leadership series, a free video training to help you strengthen your mindset, your systems, and your leadership so you can grow sustainably. The link is in the show notes, and I'd love to see you in there. But let's jump into this episode, because this is really one of my favorite things to coach people on, is the difference between success and fulfillment. So what I found is that success and fulfillment aren't the same thing. Success is external, your goals, the revenue, the recognition, where fulfillment is more internal. It's the deep sense of meaning and peace that comes from living in alignment with your values. Now, I have met so many leaders who reach incredible levels of success only to find themselves asking, is this it? And I always remind them, success is what you get. Fulfillment is what you give and grow into. So when you understand what drives your fulfillment as a leader, you stop chasing more and you start creating more. So let's jump into each of these needs and how these tie into leadership. Well, with certainty, we really all have this need for stability and safety. And so the first human need is certainty, our desire for safety, stability, and comfort. And in business, this shows up as wanting financial consistency, knowing what's coming next, or just having control over outcomes. Certainty is important because it keeps you grounded. And what I have found is that if you chase too much certainty, it can actually limit your growth. And so when you cling to what's familiar, you resist the unknown, and the unknown is where new opportunity often lives. So the key is finding a bit of that balance, right? Creating some stability without becoming stagnant. So I see stability in leadership as systems, as different planning tips, whether it's a consistent staff meeting, right? When there's some sort of consistency and stability through systems is really key for us feeling grounded. because this also, when we have that stability, gives us the confidence to take that next leap. Now, the second need is uncertainty or variety. We just need that. We have that need for variety and really for challenge. So, as humans, we crave adventure, surprise, and growth. In leadership, uncertainty will often look like innovation. So, this might be taking a new risk in our business, trying new strategies as a leader, or even entering new markets. The problem is that most entrepreneurs swing between too much uncertainty. So that provides a bunch of chaos or brings chaos to our life, and too much certainty, right? Staying in our comfort zone. And we really want to challenge ourselves to have a little bit of the magic, which is in the mix of the both. So when I've worked with clients who are stuck, it's usually because they've lost some of that variety. And I know I've been there time and time again, where we get comfortable and we get used to where we're at. And then we start to feel, well, why am I not fulfilled? What's missing? And so we need to bring back some of that variety into the business. And so we can see this in repeating the same patterns, running maybe the same systems, doing the same thing, and just kind of wondering why it sort of feels dull. So when we add some uncertainty, new learning, new projects, new creative energy, that really can reignite excitement. So it brings back some of that passion into more of that purpose. Now, the third human need is love and connection. And this one is huge for fulfillment. We're wired for belonging. So when leaders feel disconnected, whether it's from their team, their mission, or even themselves, burnout follows quickly. So what I've learned is that connection starts with vulnerability. And when you're willing to show up authentically as a leader, to listen, to care, to admit that you don't have to have all the answers, people don't lose respect for you, they gain trust in you. And connection is the glue that turns teams into communities and businesses into movements. And it's also what keeps you feeling fulfilled, because success means very little without people to share it with. Now, the fourth human need that Tony Robbins talks about is this need for significance, the need to feel important, unique, valued. Every human being wants to know they matter. And in leadership, significance shows up in wanting to make an impact, to see your work create results, to be respected, to know you're leaving a legacy. And this is a powerful driver. It's what fuels ambition and achievement. But if it's not balanced with connection, it can lead to isolation. And I've seen leaders chase recognition so hard that they disconnect from the people around them. And then when that happens, significant becomes ego instead of empowerment. And the healthiest form of significance is when you feel valued for who you are, not just what you do. And that's where fulfillment begins to deepen. Now, we reach one of the two most important pillars for long-term fulfillment, which is growth. Growth is that feeling to just become more. But what I see sometimes in leadership is I can sometimes see growth being the antidote to stagnation. And so when we're not growing, even success starts to feel hollow. So every leader that I've coached who's felt that something's missing moment, that sense of maybe quiet dissatisfaction, it's almost always because they've stopped growing. They start pouring so much into their business, so much into their people, they forget to put their own oxygen mask on. And we know this, and this is a fun but great example, is on the airplane, the flight attendants remind us every single time we have to put our own oxygen mask on first before we help anybody else. So sometimes what happens, because we're human, is that we forget to put our personal development first. So growth isn't just about scaling your business. It's about evolving as a person. And so when we become more self-aware, we become more patient and more intentional. And that's what it's about. It's becoming more of those. And growth can fuel our purpose. It definitely reignites momentum. I know for me, for sure, it does. But it also reminds you that your best work is still ahead of you. And as I've shared before, is growth feels uncomfortable, but that discomfort, it's proof you're expanding. And it's so key to feeling fulfilled is that we feel that growth for that bigger picture of fulfillment. And then the other core driver of fulfillment is contribution, the need to give beyond yourself. And I remember feeling this to the core. I remember building my business to a point where it was consistent, it was sustainable, it was growing, it was providing an amazing life. but there was just this emptiness and I just couldn't put a finger on what was missing. And it was this next level of contribution. And contribution is about giving beyond yourself to your team, your community, your industry, or even to the next generation. And this is often one that I see most often missing when I meet leaders who kind of really have it all, but they feel empty. And I remember when I hit this phase of my career is thinking, how do I make a difference at an even bigger level? And I had done a lot of impact in the world and I had given back to different charities and I had done some really neat things, even just within my team. But what I realized is that I needed a bigger vision and mission on how I was going to make an impact. And so my team and myself rallied and we ended up fundraising funds to be able to go down to Tijuana and build a home for a family and really make a long lasting impact. And that gave me purpose, but it also allowed me to feel that contribution at a level I'd never felt before. Because there's so many different chapters we go through in business, in life as leaders. And what contribution may have looked to me, in my early 20s or in my earlier part of my career is different than where I'm at in today. And I think that is just so refreshing to know that contribution can look so different no matter where we're at in our lives and in the leadership that we are currently in the chapter that we are experiencing in this moment. And contribution gives meaning to growth. And it's that bridge between personal success and collective purpose. So when you shift your focus from, well, what can I get to what can I give? Wow, you just tap into a level of fulfillment that no amount of money or recognition can truly match. And here's the beautiful thing is that contribution doesn't always have to mean charity. It can mean mentoring somebody. It can mean empowering your team. It can mean sharing your knowledge or really just creating something that makes people's lives better. And that is leadership at its highest level. So when your success becomes the seed for somebody else's growth. So when I work with leaders who've built everything they once dreamed of, but still feel that quiet emptiness, it almost always comes back to this formula. Fulfillment equals the growth and contribution. Because when you're growing, you feel alive. And when you're contributing, you feel purposeful. And when you are doing both, that's when success becomes sustainable. Every new chapter of your life, every business, will require you to redefine what success means. Every single chapter of life and business will require you to do that. Because what fulfilled you 5 years ago might not fulfill you now. And that's okay because we're growing. And the next level isn't always about more. It's about meaning. And that's why the pillars of leadership, fulfillment, and growth matter so deeply. Because that's where the action happens. Leadership gives you influence. Fulfillment gives you meaning. Growth gives you momentum. So together, they build a business that feeds your soul, not just your wallet. And if you're in a season right now where you've achieved a lot, but you feel that something's missing, I want you to know that it's not a problem. I look at this as a calling because it's life inviting you to evolve, to redefine success, to expand into contribution and growth. And that's not the end of the journey. It's the next level of it. So as I wrap up today's episode, I want to leave you with this. Fulfillment isn't found in more. Fulfillment is found in meaning. You do not have to give up ambition, but you do have to align it with purpose. Because when you grow, you expand what's possible for yourself. And when you contribute, you expand what's possible for others. And that's the real measure of success. When your life and leadership create impact beyond you. So if today's episode spoke to you, I'd love to invite you to join the LFG Business Academy on School. It's completely free, and it's where I share leadership resources, mindset tools, and systems for sustainable growth, and so much more. You can find the link in the show notes and come join us there. Thank you, though, for spending time with me today. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who's been chasing success, but might need the reminder that true fulfillment comes from growth and contribution. And don't forget, because your dream life starts with the way you lead, the way you live, and the way you grow. I'll see you next time on your Dream Coach podcast.